Hey guys, Edwin here. I'm excited to tell you about fishing in the fall and in general, power fishing.
Got it. Oh, there we go.
Golly, that's fun. It's one of the best times of the year to do it.
Holy. Oh,
I got her. We're gonna talk to you about 3 baits. We're gonna make it simple. We've narrowed it down to 3. There's lots of baits you can use, obviously, but we're gonna talk about a spinnerbait, we're gonna talk about a topwater, and we're gonna talk about a big worm, where to use them, when to use them, and why to use them right here in the fall in the Midwest region of our country. It's one of the best times of the year to be out here, guys. You're missing out if you're not going out this fall. You know, so one of the greatest things about fishing in the fall is, you know, a lot of other people, they're not out there on the body of water. Like in the spring, you know, everybody's thinking about fishing. There's just, the lakes can be crowded. You know, when you get out to the body of water in the fall, everybody's trying to deer hunt or dove hunt. You know, duck hunting comes into play, football, lots of sports. And it's just really not on people's brain. And that's like one of the greatest reasons, because you can have the lake to yourself. You know, another thing that happens in the fall, you know, those waters really start to cool off. You know, the fish have been deep, they start coming up shallow, they start wanting to feed to get ready for the winter. You know, it's just a time of the year that those fish get aggressive. That topwater bite just gets phenomenal. Who doesn't like to catch a fish on a topwater? And in general, you know, one of my favorite is just a walking bait. You know, there's lots of topwaters you can throw, you know, a buzzbait, a choppo, a popper, a frog works really well. You know, you see I've got some lily pads back here. A big thing in fishing is having confidence. So I want to give you confidence when you go out there this fall, and a walking bait is one that really can kind of cover everything.
Got him.
If I was to pick one color to use, it would be a bone color. That works in that stained water, that works in that really clear water, up north, down south, in between. It works everywhere. You need to pair it with braid. That's a really important thing because it makes the bait easier to work. You get a lot better hook sets. Pair it with a high-speed reel. An 8:3-to-1 gear ratio reel is what I have it on right here. A 6'9" rod. You know, a mistake I see some people make is they try to put this on a 7'1" rod or a 7'4" rod, or maybe too stiff of a rod. When you're working a topwater, when you're walking that bait back and forth, your rod is in a down motion when you're standing up, and it makes it a lot easier to work it with a 6'9", 6'8" foot long rod. I'm talking about 6 foot, you know, 6 foot 9 inches, 6 foot 8 inches. You know, that's how long that rod needs to be. A medium action. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to throw it. This bait, you know, a walking bait like this is the Berkley J Walker. This bait's gonna work, you know, around docks. It's gonna work up, you know, on shallow points. So that's the stuff I look for. You know, in the fall, when I'm throwing this bait, those fish, they get on really flat stuff. Flatter a bank, you know, they can push those shad up, and what it does, it compresses the water. If you're out over deep water and a bass is trying to chase a shad over 10, 12, 15 foot of water, you know, that shad can get away from it. When you get on those really flat banks and those shad get pushed up, that water's compressed, it makes it a lot easier for that bass to eat that shad. So it's just one of my most favorite places to look in the fall, and to be able to throw that walking bait or whatever topwater you like in that situation. It's just a bait that I will also put in my hand and throw on days like this when it's sunny. You know, so many times people think you gotta have clouds to catch them on the topwater, and that is true at times of the year, but in the fall, fish are feeding up, they're feeding on shad, they're going to eat a topwater even on days like this when you got a lot of sun. Sweet. Those are a lot of reasons, but the best reason is it's a visual bite. I love seeing that visual bite. All right, let's go to the next one, a spinnerbait. There are gonna be days that they just don't come up. There's gonna be days that maybe that wind's gonna pick up and a topwater's not efficient. You know, when you get a lot of waves and a lot of movement on top of the water, a bass can't hone in on that topwater. That's when you wanna go to a spinnerbait. There's been a lot of money won, a lot of tournaments won, you know, on a spinnerbait in the fall. Again, you know, bass are feeding on shad. I love throwing a spinnerbait, you know, down laydowns, down the sides of docks, slow rolling it, you know, even off riprap is a place I'll throw it.
It's a chunky one too.
And I chose a spinnerbait over a square bill. People watching this that are maybe experts at bass fishing, they're like, man, you didn't mention a square bill. It's not in my arsenal. You're right, I didn't. And the reason is lots of people throw it. You know, you got to think all summer long, all spring, even in the fall, a square bill is a very, very popular bait. I like to show them something different, and a lot of people don't throw a spinnerbait as much as they do a square bill, and it's a bait that has been around since the 60s. It's a bait that still catches them today, and it's a bait that people don't throw as much. So it's a good bait to have in your arsenal, and I've got a lot of confidence in it. One thing that I will do with that spinnerbait, you know, I will downsize my blades in the fall. A lot of times those shad get really little. This is a 1/2 ounce bait, or still a very heavy bait that I can reel fast or get deeper, yet it's got downsized blades, you know, because those shad a lot of times, you know, are just an inch, inch and a half long, and those bass, they know it. Like if you had a spinnerbait tied on, I don't have one right here that's got bigger blades, they just won't eat it as well as they will with one with smaller blades. When you go to choose your color of your spinnerbait, choose more translucent colors in the clearer water, more solid colors in a stained water situation. You know, today on this body of water, you know, I can see maybe a foot, foot and a half down, you know, so I've got kind of that type of skirt. I've got a few black strands in it, got a few silver strands in it. It's just a good spinnerbait skirt for this color water. You know, this is called shad spawn, actually, this color right here. It's a Berkley power blade. You know, if the water was dirtier, I'd go with a white or maybe white chartreuse and blue, but choose your spinnerbait skirt to the color water, you know, and I generally, it doesn't matter to me, you know, I'll have gold, silver, silver, gold. I don't get a lot into the colors of the blades. I just really pay attention to the skirt. I will rig this on 20-pound test, a 7-1 medium heavy rod, and I want to slow down my gear ratio. I've got this on a 6/8 to 1. I'm able to burn it with a 6/8 to 1, and I'm also able to slow it down. So like maybe I'll burn it over a log, and then I'll want to slow it down out there off the end of the log, and that's why I use that 6/8 to 1. It's just a really good gear ratio to do all of it. Spinnerbait, it's a must-have for me in the fall. It will work all over the country.
That just does not get old.
The last bait right here, a big worm. You know, there's lots of things we could have talked about here, but one thing, bass, they're looking for a big meal, especially big fish.
Cool fish.
You know, a lot of people, they like catching fish, but they also like catching big fish. And a big 10-inch power worm, it's just a bait that all across the country in the fall has won a lot of big fish awards, a lot of tournaments, you know, from this. And in particular, if I was to choose one color, give me Blue Fleck. It's a really, really popular color that Berkley makes. I rig this on a big 5/0 hook. The reason I think this bait shines in the fall, you know, we talked a little bit about the spinnerbait small shad. Another thing that's in the fall is big gizzard shad. And that's actually what that represents. It's a big profile out there in the water. You know, a bass feels this bait with his lateral line and I'm like, man, that's a big gizzard shad swimming by. I better eat it. That's gonna make my belly full, and I won't have to chase a meal down the next 2 days because I'm gonna get one big meal right here in one fell swoop. So the power worm for me, I'm gonna throw this, you know, down logs, stumps, brush piles, down the sides of docks. You know, it's gonna be a bait for me as that sun gets up, you know, things tighten up, those fish get in that brush pile, they get in the shade of that dock, they get in the shade of that stump or that log. I can slow down and throw this at them. There's just gonna be days that they're not gonna come after that spinnerbait. There's gonna be days they won't come to the top for that top water. That's when I have this tied on. That's gonna be on my deck. You got that perfect stump up there, and you wanna make that one cast with that big worm up there and get a bite. Great bait to have. It's caught a lot of big fish for me.
You can tell I really like these worms. I buy them by the 100 pack.
Well, I'll rig it different ways. If I wanna fish it out deeper, let's say 10, 12, 14, 15 foot brush piles, 20-foot brush piles, I'm gonna put it on like 14 or 17 pound fluorocarbon. If I'm gonna fish it up shallow, you know, lay downs, you know, that 2, 3, 4 foot of water, I'm gonna put it on 20-pound test. I've got a big 5/0 hook in it. I've got a 3/16 ounce weight. I'll vary that weight depending on the depth I'm fishing. If I'm getting out there a little deeper, I'll go up to a 1/4 or maybe a 5/16. I don't like to get a really big weight on it because when you put a bigger weight on it, it makes you work it faster. So many times you'll pick that worm up and it goes to fall back down. That's when you get that bite. So try to get away with the lightest weight you possibly can. I use this on a 7/3 heavy action rod, a high-speed reel. I use that high-speed reel to take up the slack once you get that bite to get a good hook set. And when you rig your worm, make sure it is perfectly straight. I don't want a worm crooked in any shape, form, or fashion. I don't want it like that. That is my setup for a big worm. It's a bait that I can't wait to get out there and catch a fish on because I know a lot of times when I get a bite on it, it's gonna be a big one.
And that's one of the funnest things in bass fishing is getting that big old hook set in there.
All right, guys, I hope you had as much fun watching this as I had making it. You know, we showed you a lot of footage today. different scenarios, you know, the top water, you know, different areas to throw that top water, the spinnerbait, the worm. The thing about it is those aren't the only 3 baits, but they're definitely 3 baits that I have tied on in the fall. I like to cover a lot of water. I like to look for those shad, find those flatter points. It's really good in the fall, guys. Don't be missing out. Don't just be hunting or doing those things for Christmas shopping. Get out there, get on your local lake, try some of these techniques, and hopefully you'll catch a big one.